You can change coordinate systems by showing or hiding the grid, by snapping points to the grid, by hiding or changing the appearance of the grid lines, or by changing the scale of the axes. To show the coordinate system, choose Graph, define coordinate system. To move the grid, drag either axis or the origin. To change the scale of the grid, drag the unit point. This point is always 1 unit from the origin on the x-axis. You can also drag the labels on the axes to change the scale. To give all points on the grid integer coordinates, choose Graph, Snap Points. Now when you construct points, they will snap to integer positions. When you move points, they will also snap to integer positions. Points made by other tools also snap to the grid, although plotted points do not. To turn off snap points, choose Graph, Snap Points to uncheck it. To hide the grid lines, choose Graph, Hide Grid. To show the grid lines again, choose Graph, Show Grid. To use a dotted grid, choose Graph, Dotted Grid. To change the display of the grid, click on any intersection of the grid to select it, and choose Display. Color. To change the style of the numbers along the axes, select the axes and choose Display, Show Text Palette. Make your changes. To hide the axes, select them and choose Display, Hide Axes. You can still use the unit point to change the scale of the grid. By default, Sketchpad will give you a square grid. This means that the scales of the x-axis and y-axis are the same. To control the scales of the two axes independently, choose Graph, Grid Form, Rectangular Grid. You can now change the scale of each axis without affecting the other axis. You can also choose to show the x-axis in units of pi. Choose Graph, Grid Form, Trigonometric Axis. A dialog box will appear asking if you want to switch your preferred units from degrees to radians. Click Yes. You can change coordinate systems by showing or hiding the grid, by snapping points to the grid, by hiding or changing the appearance of the grid lines, or by changing the scale of the axes.